Hello everybody! You are going to pull the funniest faces during this, I could just see it happening. I thought I would hop on, now the dogs are barking, I thought I would hop on today and make a video. Pull your top down at the back there, there you go chap, a bit more comfortable. And introduce you to the newest member of our family, the new baby. This is Enzo. Hello. Say hello, little man. So I did this with Riv when Riv was a baby. I think Riv was a bit younger actually. Those of you who follow me on Instagram will have seen him already to a certain extent, but I thought I would hop on and do a YouTube video just because you can kind of, it's a bit more of a chatty way of doing things. As you can see, Enzo's a little bit bigger than River was. Enzo is currently almost 7 weeks old, but is wearing age 3 to 6 month clothing right now because he is a big boy. We knew you were going to be big before you arrived, didn't we, little one? But he was 9 pounds 3 when he was born. He now currently weighs, I think, 12.5 pounds. I'll show you how big he is. You big boy. You say hello to everybody. He's just started smiling this week and it is possibly the sweetest, most amazing thing ever. The last 6 weeks, nearly 7 weeks, have gone by in an absolute blur, and I meant to get on here and film this earlier. I meant to do a lot of other things earlier, but to be honest with you, the last few weeks have just been absolutely manic because Riv is obviously, well not obviously, she's on like a summer break in between finishing nursery and starting school. River starts school in like 3 days time, which is mind-blowing. I can't even believe it. So we've had both of them. Mike's obviously, he took 2 weeks off and he's been back at work for a month. Mike was then not very well and it's just been like quite a whirlwind of getting used to having two. However, it's been good because you're a very sweet natured little baby, aren't you? You are. He's looking at me. He is a very sweet, calm baby, and he's just totally stolen my heart. I love him so much. He's so chunky and so chubby. He has at least 3 chins under here, and he's just wonderful. So thank you all of you who were so supportive during my pregnancy and during the kind of journey to conceive and have him, and just, it's been a long time. We've been waiting for you for a while, Mr. Man. And it's just, he's finally here and he's just delicious. I just can't get over how chubby his cheeks are. Anyway, I put on Instagram that I was going to do this video, and I thought I would answer some of your questions because it helps kind of like give the video a bit of a direction rather than me just cooing over my baby. The first question is, how is his and your sleep? Is he settled into a nighttime pattern? Yes, he is settled into a pattern naturally. I find this question interesting because I had a few questions being like, are you going to sleep train him, things like that. But with Riv as well, I don't know if it's just the way we parent or that we've been lucky with our babies, a bit of both probably. They've both kind of found themselves a natural kind of rhythm with their sleep. You're right, dude. They both kind of like settled into that kind of 3 or 4 hour feed window, which you can kind of tweak, but even if you kind of move his feeds a little bit, I find that he kind of like naturally like goes back to the exact same times. It's weird, it's really weird. But yeah, we are sleeping okay, he's sleeping okay. The most crucial thing is that he goes back down quite quickly. So after he's had a feed, he'll feed and go down within kind of 40 minutes. So he wakes up twice in the night. Once is at about 11 or 12 o'clock, and Mike usually does that feed, and then he usually wakes up at about 3 to 4, and I do that feed. So we've kind of like fallen into like a really nice pattern of kind of sleeping and feeding. I've also had so many questions about feeding and how feeding's going and am I breastfeeding. I know that a lot of you guys were like, how on earth have you gone to a festival when you've got such a tiny baby, which is last weekend. So I am feeding him, but as we did with River, we're combi feeding, so he has a few bottles of formula a day and then breast milk the rest of the time. I'm also pumping a lot, which I didn't really intend. I'm pumping more this time than I did with River, which I didn't necessarily intend on. He's just not the best like breastfeeding baby. Like he's quite unsettled, and he's quite physical, and he gets quite frustrated like with the pace of breastfeeding. And I think for him it works better to have express milk in a bottle. He seems to prefer it and kind of feed better, feed faster, and be kind of more satisfied rather than getting so frustrated. But yeah, I'm mixed feeding and pumping a lot. I'm using the LV pumps a lot, which I know a lot of you guys were asking for a review on those, which I might do in a few weeks. If you'd like to see it, let me know. I've been using those probably like 3 times a day, so like really like have got a lot of use out of them already, even though he's only 6 weeks old. The next question is Enzo short for anything? It's not. It is commonly short for Lorenzo. It's obviously an Italian name. It's also short for Heinz in German as well. So we've had a lot of questions about the name and like where did the name come from. There is another question on here asking, was the name inspired by Enzo Ferrari, because Mike is a big car nut. No, the name wasn't inspired by Enzo Ferrari, and a lot of his friends think it's funny that he's called his baby Enzo, because for those of you who don't know, Enzo Ferrari was the founder of Ferrari. I actually first suggested Enzo. I first heard Enzo in the Vampire Diaries, which is a really uncool like way to hear of a name to name your baby. But I really liked it when I heard it in the series, forgot about it. This was years ago, like way before we were thinking about having kids. So heard it, forgot about it, and you know, moved on. And then when we were choosing a name for him, we really didn't have any others. Like it came up in a baby, like in a baby website, you know, you kind of search and search and search for baby names when you're having a baby. Well, I did anyway. And it came up, and it was the only one that really stuck. I suggested it to Mike. He loved it, but he was like, oh, I think everyone will think that I'm like called it after Enzo Ferrari. And I was like, but does that really matter? So yeah, it was the only one we kind of considered, and we went for it, and we love it. There's a lot of questions about does he have middle names as well. He does have middle names, but we're not going to share them. I feel like I'm sharing a lot more of him physically than I did with Riv, and this is something that I've got a lot of questions about as well, is you know, my kind of thinking and thoughts behind kind of sharing him a little bit more than I shared River when River was tiny. Actually, I've kind of changed my thinking on this, because when Riv was tiny, we really didn't share much of her. And then we went through phases, we kind of shared more, then we shared less, then we shared more again. Now Riv is actually going to school. I'm actually going to be sharing less of her, less images of her and video of her, because I think as she gets older, that really should be her decision. But also when he's a baby, I'm comfortable sharing more of him, because I feel like they change so much, and they kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's less kind of their personality and their kind of privacy in that way. I don't know, but that's what I've decided. So like, you expect to see a bit of Enzo over the next kind of year or so, but not so much of River. Still will update you on Riv, and you'll see lots of like the back of her head pictures like you do on my Instagram, but not quite as much of her as you'd have seen in kind of vlogs and things like that. Someone said the biggest difference you've seen between Riv and Enzo as babies. Enzo is bigger for sure, and they look really different. Enzo's a lot lighter in his hair colour. River was born with probably twice as much hair as Enzo. Enzo still has a fair amount of hair for a baby. He's not bald, but he is a lot fairer. He's got a lot paler skin as well. And oh really? You're a bit paler than your sister. You are. She had lots of black hair, which is hard to believe now. She's got blonde curly hair. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. He's obviously bigger. He was 9 pounds 3, she was 8 pounds 7. And he's a lot kind of chunkier. You are a chunky little monkey. You are. You're so cuddly. He's a lot cuddlier as well. And I've noticed a difference in their temperament. They're both quite relaxed babies, and they're kind of, so far, quite easygoing. However, he's a little bit more physical. So like, things like if I cuddle him to my chest, which I might have to do now because you seem to be having a bit of a wriggle, don't you, dude? He will, a lot of the time, grab onto my hair. So he'll have one hand on this side, on one hand to the other, and will not let go. Riv never used to do that, and it's made me realise why a lot of mums, when they have babies, end up cutting their hair short, because yeah, he really pulls my hair. And he's also quite he's a lot stronger than Riv was. Like, he really pushes himself up on you, and he's done that since like very, very early doors. He's very strong and very kind of like physical, and he also loves to kind of shout. So if he needs something or wants something, you get a bit feisty. Are you alright? If he needs something or wants something, he'll do like one short, sharp, like a squeal. And when he was first born, you got some wind. When he was first born, I thought I was like hurting him or something, like I hurt him. And then we realised pretty quickly, there's a little burp, and we realised pretty quickly that was just his way of like kind of letting you know that he needed something. He kind of screams, but doesn't carry on crying, which is quite interesting because Riv didn't do that. Someone's asked, who does he look more like? I don't know. Who do you think he looks like? I've had a lot of people say he looks like me and my side of the family, which River looks a lot like me, so I think Mike is a little bit disappointed by that. You're wriggly wriggly. I was trying to pull your top down. Okay, so I just ran out of space on my memory card. So here we go. Oh, he was asleep. It's okay. Who do you think he looks more like? I mean, the chins are definitely from Mike. We shall see who he looks like. At the moment, I had that moment like when he kind of was first born, looking at him being like, I don't know you, like the same as when Riv was born. It's really weird. I don't know if many of you who have kids find the same thing, but when you have a baby and you expect to kind of recognize them when they come out and you don't, you're kind of like, I don't know why that's a surprise. Obviously you're not going to recognize them, you haven't seen them before, but you kind of think that they'll look like you or like your husband or whatever, and you're kind of like, oh, you're a whole new person. The next question is, what's the hardest thing adjusting from 1 to 2? To be honest, it hasn't been too bad. I would say River not being in any kind of form of childcare has been the hardest part. So like I'm kind of looking forward to next week when she starts school and we get into a routine again, because I feel like we haven't been in any kind of routine and it's just been a bit crazy. And then the other thing is obviously not being able to rest, because like River is also like very demanding in terms of like she wants me to play with her all the time and craft with her and things like that. So often when she was a baby, when she would be resting, I would then kind of tidy up, and then you get a bit of like headspace, so you can kind of, you know, whether or not you're tidying up the kitchen or doing the laundry or whatever, but you don't have a little person being like, mummy, 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 mummy. Whereas at the moment, that's the situation. So I'm kind of looking forward to having a bit of time, just me and him, to kind of like rest a bit, because I just feel like quite exhausted, to be honest. Someone else has asked me, are the first 2 weeks with the baby the hardest? And I would actually say no. I have to say, and you might have noticed this, if you follow me on Instagram, you might have noticed I posted quite a lot of content in the first couple of weeks after having a baby, because I think you're in such a like, you're almost like on such a high and in this weird bubble, and I feel like you're still running on adrenaline. You're just literally like go, go, go. I almost find it harder the second month onwards. So like from a couple of weeks ago, you kind of like people, it's also as well like the help isn't there as much, so like people stop being like, are you okay, do you want me to come round and bring you some food, or like, I'll come round and like help you with this, or like I'll come round and look after the baby if you want to have a shower, things like that. That kind of stops after a few weeks, and I think after that it becomes harder, because you kind of get that, you get into the day-to-day of everything more. I feel like I'm really sweaty as well. That's the other thing. It's like I feel like I'm just constantly sweating because it's summer and I'm always holding him, and I feel like breastfeeding also makes you really sweaty. Like really, really sweaty all the time. It's so nice, isn't it? I'm gonna scooch back a bit, little dude. So the next question is, did you feel different postpartum since you've had Enzo compared to River? You know what, River was that long ago. I can't really remember how I felt emotionally as much. I feel like with Enzo I haven't had as much time to kind of sit and contemplate things, whereas with River I did. Although that sounds crazy, because having one newborn baby the first time, you're totally kind of like shell shocked in the like, you know, everything. But I feel like with well, she's not a toddler, but with a 4-year-old as well, you just like, I feel like I'm so busy that I haven't really had time to think about it too much, and time is going a lot faster. That's the other thing. But I feel like I feel kind of similar. Physically, I feel like the recovery has been about the same, to be honest. I've just started going back in the gym this week, doing spin classes, which is non-impact, so like I really like feel comfortable doing that. I actually did a few walking classes on the treadmill, and that was harder for me than like a full-on spin class. So recovery has been about the same. I'd started back in the gym with Riv about the same time as well, because for me it's yes about kind of getting back kind of fit again, but it's also like mentally I find time in the gym really helps me. And obviously when you have had a baby, you're at a particularly kind of like delicate stage in your life where looking after your mental health is really important, and for me going in the gym, it is that. So like a lot of people comment on it being like, oh, you're back in the gym like quite quick or whatnot, and yeah, that's the main reason really. How was your C-section recovery? That's the same question. So yeah, I feel like it's about the same. I think my scar this time is actually better though. I think it's slightly bigger, but I don't know if that's just because my tummy is still bigger, and then like once all the swelling, and obviously if you lose weight on your tummy, which I hope I will because my tummy is much bigger than it was with Riv, I feel like the scar might kind of shrink down in size a little bit as well. I have to say the last 2 weeks of pregnancy with him were horrendous. I just felt had a few like niggly health issues, but basically meant that I was just hobbling around like a grandma, and I just was so uncomfortable, and it was so hot. It was way worse. Like the end of pregnancy with him was way worse, but the actual C-section recovery was about the same. How is River adjusting to being a big sister? So Riv has been so amazing. She is just the sweetest. She's so gentle with him. She's a very gentle, kind of sensitive character anyway. She's very kind of, she's shy, and she's quite, she's like emotionally sensitive, and just very, she's very like risk aware as well. Like she's always very careful about hurting herself, hurting other people. So she's just very gentle with him. She's so sweet to him. She kisses him all the time, and 90%, like probably 95% of the time is adorable to him. There's been a couple of moments where she's like never not been nice to him, but she's said a few times, oh, it was so much easier with just the three of us, mummy. There's been a few moments like that, which breaks your heart in a way, but also it's a big time of change for her, and I'm actually quite worried about her next week starting school, because she obviously has had this huge change at home, and then she's about to have a huge change in going into school as well. So I just hope she embraces it and loves it. She's like 50-50 excited and nervous, but fingers crossed she will just kind of embrace school, and it won't be too much of a challenge for her, because there has been a lot of change for her this summer. The next question is, how did you feel when you fell pregnant with Enzo? And I have to say, yeah, I felt a bit like that, dude. So emotional. Like honestly, it was all the emotions. I was obviously absolutely, you're gonna do a poo? Yeah, I think you might. I was absolutely over the moon happy, but I was also really nervous, because having lost previous pregnancies, you just don't ever want to be excited until it's right. Like the 20-week mark is definitely like a hurdle, and then for me the kind of like 30, what is it when you're like full term at like 37 weeks or whatever, was a big hurdle. But still, I wasn't like entirely like relieved of that worry until he was like in my arms and had been checked over, and they were like, he's okay. It was all just, yeah, just a mixture of like super happy and super nervous and worried at the same time. What has been your favorite memory so far of Riv's interaction with Enzo? She sings to him. She's not that bad. She's not that bad. It's so cute. She sings to him, and it's just the sweetest thing. She makes up songs, and it breaks my heart. It's just so cute. And I think that's it for the questions, to be honest. I feel like you've got to know Enzo. He's a pretty good boy. Oh, are you tired now? Yeah, he's just had a feed before I started filming, so he should really be falling asleep. I think if I put him down now, he will go to sleep. You gonna say bye-bye to everybody? Yeah, say bye to everyone. They're so funny when they're teeny tiny, they're so wobbly. Hello world. Thanks for watching. He kind of waved. See you soon. Bye.